capture the video. Mm. So guys, this is my part of my presentation. So we're talking about African Americans who five African Americans who immigrated in the Soviet Union. So let's get started. So this is Robert Robinson. Robert Robinson, he was a Ford engineer during the USSR. So it was in 1929, and he was born in Jamaica by his mother. He was from in his mother is from um is from in Dominican. So Robert Robinson, he was uh he was um elected in Moscow in the 1930s, and it was for the US government was rebuked is Mr. Robinson citizenship. So Robert Robinson was forced to work in the Soviet Union, and 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 Robert Robinson also got struck for 50 years during the Great Depression. And so guys, this is Robert Robinson. He was working in the USSR for 50 years during the Great Depression. This is Homer Smith Jr. So Homer Smith Jr. He was born um in Mississippi, Minnesota, in Mississippi, in Quitman in Mississippi in the 1909. So he is studying journalism in journalism in University of Minnesota. So um uh, Homer Smith Jr. also he decided to work in the Soviet Union because he married a Soviet citizenship woman, and Homer Smith Jr. He decided to work to the Soviet Union because of the he he he, he worked to the post office in Minnesota. So this is Wayland Rudd. Wayland Rudd is African American actor who escaped the Jim Crow laws by racism his career. And Wayland Rudd, he is the actor, and Wayland Rudd also he was born in the 1989, and he married is a Russian woman. Because of this frustration, he remarried this Russian woman, and during that time, Royland Rat was escaped the Jim Crow laws because his career was racism. So this is George Steins. George Steins is the African Americans who came to the Soviet Union during the 1930s, and he became the best feeder duck in the Soviet Union. And George Steins also he became the best industrial duck feeder during the Soviet Union. So this is George Steins. George Steins, um, he he is African Americans who came to the Soviet Union in the 1930s. So this is Alison Blakely. So Alison Blakely is the professor in the University of Boston in during the Great Depression, and and so wait 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 so 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 it is the historian. So Alison Blakely, he was born in a March 31, 1940 in Clinton, Alabama, and he studied in School of University of Oregon of California, Berkeley. So he arrived he arrived in Boston in 2001 after a career of 30 years in the History Department of Howard, and he is the author of Blacks in Dutch World of the Evolution of Racial Press in the 1934. So this is Alison Blakely is author of the Black in the Clutch of the Blood in the Clutch World during the evolution of racial in the 1994. So this is my friend, guys. Smith Homer Smith Jr. So Homer Smith Jr. is the best known for his 14 years sojourn in the Soviet Union. He was born in the 1909 in Quitman, Mississippi, and his parents, Mr. Mrs. Smith Jr. and Mr. Smith Jr. in the 1916 at the age of 7, he moved to Minneapolis in Minnesota with his parents between in the 1922 and 1928. So he's studying journalism at the University of Minnesota. So guys, where he was born. So he was born in 1909 in Quitman, Mississippi, and Homer Smith. Also, he studied journalism in University of Minnesota in 1922 and 1928. So he was born in 1909 in Quitman, Mississippi, and he studied journalism during the 1920 to 1922 and 1928. So why Homer Smith immigrated in the Soviet Union? So he decided to immigrate to the Soviet Union in 1932 because of the U.S. Communist newspaper, whose name is the Daily Worker Proclaim. So he decided to immigrate to the Soviet Union in the 1932 because of the U.S. Communist newspaper, in is the Daily Worker Proclaim. So what Homer Smith regret doing. So he remained in January 1938 and he married Marie Petrovna, a Soviet citizen. He had been sending articles to Black American newspapers since 1932. So while he worked at the Moscow post office, so when Germany invaded Russia in the summer of 1931. He was now a full-time war correspondent for the Associated Negro Press. And in 1944, he became half of the two-person Associated Press team in Moscow as a correspondent. Miss Smith covered the initial German invasion of the Soviet Union. And Homer Smith Jr. He married he married a Soviet citizen, and he had been sending articles to the Black American newspaper since 1932. So conclusion, what the USSR collapsed in August 1991, the USSR collapsed because of the unsuccessful coup against Gorbachev, sealed the fate of the Soviet Union planned by hardline communists to the coup of diminished Gorbachev power and prospered Yeltsin and the democratic forces to the forefront of the Soviet Union and Russian politics. So bibliography. So the period covers 1953 to 1991, beginning of the death of Stalin and ending with the dissolution of the Soviet Union. So the topic included the Khrushchev, Brezhnev, and Gorbachev eras, including the transition periods of the collective leadership and the significant related events and topics as a Cold War, the Hungarian Revolution, the 1010 Kalnos. So This bibliography also, guys, does not include the newspapers of articles, so except the primary sources and reference fictions, photo, a collection of films created during or about this period. So, guys, this is my part of my presentation. I hope you like my presentation, and God bless, guys.